All right, welcome back to another episode of the IDP Plus podcast, and we are finally going to have some plus for you on this episode. Talking some mixed leagues with offense, defense. We're going to hit up some mailbag questions from subscribers and commenters, and we're going to maybe talk some Scott Fishbowl. So this is going to be a fun one. So I'm joined, as always, by Matt Record. And tonight we have Will Weiss, aka Fantasy FF Skinny Chef. Will, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is going to be fun.
Yes. So the reason we have you on is the lovely sleeper league that we have pulled up here. You have spearheaded our sort of listener / just community leagues for this year. They are free to enter, first of all.
Yep.
And we are giving away subscriptions to the winners of these leagues. So why don't you tell us a little bit about these leagues, the scoring, the roster setup, everything that went into them.
Yeah, so I wanted to make something that was going to be fun for people to kind of get people that weren't familiar with IDP to get in and get a chance to play. And so I was kind of sitting around piddling with scoring, and I'd up the score for somebody, and then you'd look at it and be like, well, linebackers are still too low. There's not enough of them in the top 10. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to take points away from offense because that's no fun. And so I would just add points to a tackle or a tackle for a loss. And I just kept adding points. And all of a sudden I was like, this is great. The number one overall scorer last year was a linebacker. And I was like, yeah, that's great. So it was kind of a fun thing to put together, kind of looking at making a way that could really bring, like I said, new people to IDP in a format that was familiar, but also really introduce them to some of especially the bigger names in IDP. So, last year, the number one overall scorer was Aluakin. He beat out quarterbacks, the Superflex, tight end, not really a tight end premium. But yeah, so.
Yeah, so that I pulled that up here so people can see. I'm not sure it's translating super well because of the yellow.
Oh, I can see it.
Okay,
fair enough.
So yeah, we've got sacks as 9 points, hits on a QB 2 points, tackles 2, tackles for loss 2. I'm just highlighting some of the important ones. Interceptions 6. Fumble recoveries 1, forced fumble, which is more important. That is the right way to be scoring fumbles, by the way. You're forcing the fumble takes skill. Falling on a loose ball doesn't take much skill. So forcing the fumble is the higher score at +3. Safeties are +3. Assisted tackles 1. Solos 2. Passes defended 6. I love that. That makes defensive backs more relevant.
Make cornerbacks relevant again.
Yeah.
And we're giving bonuses for 2+ sacks at 3 points, 3+ passes defended worth 4, and then return touchdowns on the defensive side for long returns of 50+ get an extra 2 points. So I absolutely love this scoring. I believe. Did you say that if we try to look at last year? Quickly,
oh yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Season stats. So the number one scorer was Foye Luakan at 780 points.
Heck yeah.
And that is amazing. Matt, what do you think about this scoring?
I mean, it's awesome. So we often talk about how IDP, especially when you're introducing new players, it's often pretty devalued because people are afraid of doing IDP. So you want to enter them in as safe a space as possible. So it's like, oh, don't worry about it. The points aren't going to matter as much. It'll still add up to like a team defense thing, and offense still rules. I absolutely love this. We are the IDP guys. We are promoting IDP. We're going to go through our drafts coming up, but it was very reasonable to be drafting some of these dudes really early on, which you never see. It's really cool, and happy to be a part of it.
Yes, we are throwing people right into the deep end, which is the best way to do it. So let's see, what is so the roster construction is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 3 offensive flexes. then 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 3 defensive backs, and 2 flexes. So that is 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 defensive starters if I count right.
Yes, sir.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Should be 11.
And then 9 on offense. So, we are definitely pushing the IDPs up there. Now, if we hop into the draft room, so me and Matt have both been a part of these initial drafts, and it's been a lot of fun actually. So
it's been real exciting to watch these. Guys fall off the board and where everybody goes, because I think both you guys have been in a few of our mocks for dynasty purposes, and usually we don't see IDPs going off the board till the 6th round. If it's the 5th round, it's like, holy cow, that's so early. And here, I mean, we've got an IDP going in the 2nd round, and that's just for me, like, that was just exactly what I was hoping to see when I put the scoring together. So
absolutely
made me super happy.
It is actually super flex. I missed it. It was like camouflaged into the screen though. So this is a super flex with IDP League. So we're just doing all the bells and whistles here. So Matt, let's take a look at how you started off. Why don't you read off your team and kind of what your strategy was?
So 3, 4, 5, 6. So I was drafting 8th. So even though the IDP is very heavily favored in here, if you're watching on YouTube, which if you are, please hit like and subscribe, comment what you think. That's very important to help us grow. Please do that. It's harder to find, solid offensive things. So my strategy was to try to nail some of the more important offensive spots and then kind of go hard and hopefully use my we'll say advanced IDP knowledge, whatever the heck I credentials I have for working here, to sort of fill in the rest of the roster spots. So I went Jamar Chase at 1. Jefferson was already off. A lot of the first QBs were already off. So like, let me just get that stud wide receiver. I went Jonathan Taylor, bit of a gamble there. Unsure if he's going to stay healthy the entire year. He's in theory going to be healthy for training camp, but risk there. Dak Prescott went after that QB, finally gave in. Devontae Smith, Kirk Cousins. So really get my 2 quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is not sexy, but he's a perfectly reasonable QB2 in this format. So I have my 2 stud wide receivers. I have a stud running back, and I have a stud QB. So then I went defense. I was like, you know what? It's time. I hammered. I love dual eligibility. Kind of a cheat code, some of these things. It gives you a lot of flexibility. So I went Hassan Reddick, which I know, Steve, you like. Linebacker DL for the Eagles. I don't think he's going to replicate the same stuff he did last year, but he's a stud. Like, he's a great guy to have. Matt Judon, I went Homer for me. Then Patrick Queen, then TJ Edwards, just a bunch of linebackers that are going to see the field a whole lot and just rack up, hopefully, a bunch of points in this scoring system. And then, because I went light on running backs, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, AJ Dillon, just kind of went volume shooters there, sort of filling some of those other roster spots. And then I went DL, like straight DL, a little longer, and I found that I love defensive tackles, apparently. So, like you can see here, Dexter Lawrence, breakout year last year, love what he does. DeForest Buckner, just perennial great player to have. Kwity Paye, bit of a I guess more sleeper type person at the ADP. I like his ADP. I don't love, in retrospect, having a couple of presumed starters from the same defensive line, but hey, maybe it'll work. And then I went defensive back, like I always do, way later than other people, especially in this scoring system. I know the interceptions and pass defense do help quite a bit, but there's so many good, valuable cornerbacks and defensive backs. Like, I let other people reach for the big names, and I don't hate who I ended up with. So Kyle Duggar, again, Patriots, he plays a whole bunch. Jesse Bates, there in Atlanta. Obviously, we don't know what he looks like on that new team, but very versatile. Big opportunity there. Eddie Jackson, Chicago, is often undervalued. And then as you can see, we'll just talk starting lineups because we don't have to go super deep. Ended up with Javon Hargrave. He was a beast in Philadelphia last year. We're on the street in San Francisco. He's going to be great.
Oh,
Yeah, and then Marcus Williams, another great undervalued defensive
one
back
of my
that sees the field
favorites.
quite a bit and
Yeah.
scores quite a bit. So I went with the get your studs on offense, TLDR, studs on offense. Kind of go volume on that defense, right? With people that are not necessarily high, big names, everyone knows, but is going to be good enough, I think, in the scoring system to make my team someone to look out for.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. That middle grouping of IDPs right there, Reddick, Judon, Queen, Edwards, boom, boom, boom. You've got Reddick and Judon as dual eligible guys. So,
Mhm.
you're going to have, especially like on their bye weeks or whatever, you're going to have solid floor production with the Dexter Lawrences and the DeForest Buckners of the world. And hey, if they chip in with the sack every now and then, that's just, money on top. So that's a really nice mixed build. And then you've got Queen and Edwards filling in there, for if you want to flex those guys into the defensive line. So, and that defensive back group is really nice for if you see the rounds here, 19, 23, 24. Like that's exactly doing. Marcus Williams, who I probably would have taken before almost any of them besides Dyke in the 25th round. Like he's one of my guys for this year.
Yeah. So my bit of advice for people in not necessarily just this league, but all of these defensive leagues, you can find really good value for a lot of these positions way late. I know being IDP focused for, this job and whatnot, I often like in those big names pretty early, but then I find that my offensive depth falls off so much quicker versus even now, because this draft is still ongoing. So there's still more happening. The defensive options that are still there are unreal.
Yeah.
Like there's so many good options out there. So hopefully you're listening to us and we can give you some of those people.
IDPguys.org/subscribe, and you'll get rankings of 800 players right now for Dynasty. We're just about finished with our redraft that'll hopefully be publishing later this week. So yeah, you'll be able to find those gems in the appropriate ranking levels. It's basically a guide or an ADP guide is how I like to view our rankings. So you can kind of just queue them up in order and start picking them off. Some guys you're gonna get a value. Some might seem like a reach, but I think they're really well done. So that was a great build. So I'm also in this league. I'll touch on my team real quick. I kind of went like similar philosophy where, especially in super flex, right? I got my quarterbacks relatively early. I'm doing a lot more like zero RB type builds in these kinds of leagues. These larger roster with full IDP amount of starters. I'm just kind of not caring about running back unless something like crazy value wise lands in my lap, but that doesn't happen too frequently because people still love their running back. So I went quarterback and wide receiver heavy with Cooper Kupp in the first, Trevor Lawrence in the second, Tua in the third, stacked him with Waddle in the fourth.
That's going to give you monster points.
I hope so. I sure hope so. I grabbed DK Metcalf in the fifth to shore up my wide receivers. I did sneak an IDP in there. I got one of my favorite defensive linemen. I took Myles Garrett in the sixth.
For what it's worth, that was a absolute snipe of mine. I was so ready to get him.
Yeah, we were headed this way. Yeah, you settled for Reddick. Oh, darn.
If you weren't so biased, you'd see it.
And then I went so I kept with a stack going. I took both of the Jaguar receivers in Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. And then I started dipping IDP a little bit more. Quay Walker in the 9th, Jalen Phillips in the 10th. There's a dual eligibility guy, Jalen Phillips. Absolutely love him. I finally started to touch on running backs a little bit. Brian Robinson, Evan Ingram is my starting tight end, so I'm very stack heavy with the Jaguars offense this year. I grabbed a homer pick in Rashad Penny from the Eagles in the 13th. I got one of the top scoring by points per game linebackers from last year in Josie Jewell in the 14th round. And these are exactly the kinds of guys you can get when you don't reach for a Devin White. If you tell me I could have Josie Jewell in the 14th versus where Devin White go, let me see if I can find it. Come on. Damn it. In the 6th. If you're telling me I give Josie Jewell in the 14th and Devin White in the 6th, give me Josie Jewell all day, especially Sunday. Snatched a couple more running backs, Damian Harris, Samaj P. Ryan back-to-back in the 15th and 16th. An ultimate sleeper guy this year, Azeez Al-Shaair from the Titans. He's going to be pretty much their only linebacker who's worth a damn there. Got him in the 17th round. Somehow got Rashad Bateman in the 18th round. If he stays healthy, he should be the number 2 target in Baltimore with the expected to be more higher passing rates this year with a new offensive coordinator. And I grabbed Mr. Ageless Wonder, Cam Jordan, for my defensive line to build on there. So I kind of, once I grabbed Myles Garrett as like my stud, I kind of punted and waited until the 19th round to grab Cam Jordan, although Jalen Phillips can fill in if I need him to. 3 more So I have 4 IDP picks in a row there. Cam Jordan, Caden Ellis, linebacker from Atlanta, Rashawn Gary, and then Azeez Ojulari. So just stacking up, I think it's a very nice balanced team. Again, I'm very weak at running back, but I think I made it up in everywhere else. Now, the funny thing is I don't have a defensive back selected yet.
Well,
so this draft is still going.
Well, Steve,
you're on the clock. Now's the time.
You're on the clock.
Should we make a pick here live?
Yeah,
all right, let's do it.
Talk us through.
Right.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I always like to kind of review my roster at a top level and see where I got my guys. So offense, I'm pretty happy. Although, what was my last pick? Yeah, so. My QB3 is only Colt McCoy, so I'm really hoping that Tua stays healthy most of the year, or else I'm screwed at that super flex spot. So, and there's like no QBs left. I even snuck Chase Young in there in the 24th round.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I basically have my starting lineup full except for my defensive backs, and my bench is coming along nicely again outside of quarterback. So all right. Just for the people, let's look at defensive backs.
For the people.
So this is not best ball, right, Chef? That
right.
We have to set our lineup every
every week.
So in my best ball builds, I've actually been, of course, punting on defensive back, and I'm taking a lot of cornerbacks as my over safeties, honestly, because I think they have greater chances for the spike week. So in best ball, I've been going cornerbacks, but right now I'm going to try to find safety. I do like Julian Love a lot. I'm going to throw him in the queue. So that could be a nice pick here. Brian Branch, Derek Stingley. I still might grab him. My guy, Marcus Jones. I love him. I can't believe he's still available. I'm probably Ryan Neal's a great sleeper.
For what it's worth, I can't comment on this presently because I am in this.
I know. No, I mean it's for fun.
Yeah, I'm really upset. I dropped Ryan Neal in the offseason before he got signed by Tampa.
Yeah. Ouch. I think this is Hooker. Oh my God. There's so many I like. See, this is why there's so many guys I still like. All right. Because I know Matt's a Patriots guy, I'm going to go with Jones, and he'll probably steal Hooker from me, but that's okay. Give me the freak Marcus Jones, who plays on offense. He's an interception machine. I think he's really going to build on the momentum from last year. So I have no problem making him a weekly starter over a lot of safeties out there. I have no problem with Marcus Jones. So
that's a back-to-back Pats for you. Love that. Love what you're building.
You are loving that, huh? So yeah, that's just a quick peek into one of these mixed leagues that we're doing. Again, we'll probably always advocate for, especially in Superflex, like get your quarterbacks, build the cornerstones of your offense, and then start worrying about defense. Especially if, so like Myles Garrett, right? I took him in the 6th. I didn't take another IDP until the 9th. So I had at the first 8 rounds, 7 offense, one defense. But Myles Garrett is like a cornerstone player in the 6th round, especially when the first IDP started to go in the 2nd. And Will, I'm going to have you talk about some of this. I wanted your takeaways on some of this, where these players were drafted here. But especially when the first IDP went in the 2nd, that's a fun build. This team over here took Roquan and Foye in the 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
Like, that's great and all, but like, give me cornerstone offense over that. Again, it's a league for fun, so I'm not gonna bash it or anything. It's just not my strategy. So what did you think? I know you set the settings, with the expectation that people would do stuff like this, and I was glad to see it. So what do you think about some of these early IDP picks?
So Evan's team in particular, I actually really like. I think he did a solid job after grabbing. He got Roquan, he got Aluakun. They're top linebackers. That level of ability is irreplaceable. Then he came back and grabbed Bosa in the 4th, and I think he got a couple. That was a great snag there too. He got a couple of solid upside running backs. If Dobbins is who he was drafted to be this year, and Jahmyr Gibbs, he's got a lot of potential there. Wide receivers again, I know he missed out on some really high-end wide receivers in the 2nd and the 3rd, but coming back and grabbing Jerry Jeudy, who's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 there, Terry McLaurin, who's a solid option. I don't think that this guy missed really starting heavy on the IDP guys. Coming back with Pickett, I didn't like the L'Jarius Sneed pick. I thought that was super early for a DB. So I think that pick might hurt him a little bit because I think, let's see which way are we going on that 8, 10. Yeah, so you could have had Jahan Dotson there, George Pickens. I know he had
passed up some good depth for.
Yeah, there's some good
very replaceable position.
Yeah. So, but all in all, I like that team a lot. There's across all the leagues, there's some really fun builds that I've seen. There's one, I was trying to pull it up here while y'all were talking. I think this is the league. It's in one of the other leagues. The guy went at 112, went Roquan Smith. At 2-1, grabbed a Aluakun. Came back at 312 with Ramondre Stevenson. And then he TJ Edwards at 4-1, Myles Garrett, Derwin James, which is super early for a DB, but I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Bobby Wagner, Alex Singleton. And then he came back with David Montgomery. Solid upside for, touchdowns and whatnot. Evan Ingram in the 11th round. He didn't grab a quarterback until the 13th, where he grabbed Derek Carr, and then Trey Lance 15th. So
that's a gamble.
Some big gambles, but it's also, like, for me, a super exciting build to watch because that's exactly the team that I want to see win the championship. I wanted to see an IDP team win. So I'm excited to see, somebody build a team like that. So I thought that was one of my favorite builds. Granted, not as deep on the offense as I was hoping, but it's still a fun build to watch.
And that's what, most leagues aren't going to have these unique scoring settings, this unique roster setup. So, so we're still always going to advocate, first of all, know your league, know your settings, but if they're more standard, slightly less aggressive scoring, our overall advice is going to be get those cornerstone offensive pieces first, unless some of these really top names fall to you at a reasonable ADP and a reasonable value, then absolutely grab 1 or 2 here and there. But end of the 1st, 2nd round, that's very much not typical.
Yeah, not at all. And that's if you pull up can you pull up the season-long stats again real quick? I just kind of want to fly through that. And kind of better explain to people why some of these positions went where they went.
So I just drafted. I went Devin Witherspoon.
Oh, nice! I love the upside for him as a cornerback.
We're gambling, baby. Like, rookie cornerbacks have proven they can be worthwhile when they're on the field.
Yeah.
And
he's
why not?
Surrounded by some talented guys.
Why not?
So
It's fun.
Yeah, it's for the funds.
It's for the fun.
So if you can scroll down and try to get like the top 10 or 15 in that window, the PC is so much harder to pull stuff up on.
I know. It's very annoying.
So, yeah, I mean, you got Roquan, Nick Bolton back to back. Zaire Franklin's up there in the top. He's ahead of Austin Eckler last year, tied with Jalen Hurts in points. As amazing of a year as Jalen Hurts had last season, and you got Zaire Franklin tied in points. So that, that stuff excites me. TJ Edwards, 68, just a hair behind
Drew Tranquil.
Was a beast. Yes, Drew Tranquil. See, you hit this line of IDP players. The DB, I think that's top 15 if Petre was.
Yeah.
So you kind of see the reason some of these guys that are grabbing IDP so early, especially if you're not familiar with it and you just see this is how much they scored. You're definitely going to hit them early, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, there's Max Crosby all the way up there. So,
yeah, the linebackers dominate like in most leagues. It's very hard, especially on sleeper, to make defensive linemen kind of king. But
that was a big struggle trying to bring up the D line and the cornerbacks especially.
Yeah, and this is total, finish. Of course, the stupid PC doesn't allow you points per game. If you have points per game in there, it's going to look even more different and have some more surprising names. Like a Josie Jewell is going to be up there. So, but even with the total finishes, you've got some pretty crazy stuff. Bobby O up there above CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So this is how it should be. Most of these I would love to see like this. So if you're newer and listening, please give it a try. You can hit us up and we will send you the template for the scoring and everything like that.
I've still got one league open if y'all want to join in one. We'll drop the link.
Listen, it's only July. We're going to be posting more and more leagues. We're going to keep filling them and just check the website, check our Twitter. But I think that we could keep going. I know the IDP show does an awesome job with best ball. They, I think, have like 50 of those leagues. We're probably not quite going to approach that, especially not being best ball, because you're going to want people that are engaged all season. So, which we're probably going to lose people, to be honest. But oh well. So yeah, we're as they fill, we'll start a new one, and so just keep your eyes out. If you're interested in joining this and giving it a try, just keep. We'll post the links here in this video. They'll be on the website. I'll be adding new leagues. There's an article that has the leagues posted there. So check that, and then of course our Twitter will be pumping them out all the time. So.
Speaking of leagues, you should join if this interests you. We have our 2023 IDP Invitational being signups happening right now. We're getting towards the end of it, so we're trying to fill this up and get it all wrapped up within the next couple of weeks. As you can imagine, it's a lot of things to get people to get their drafts going, and a lot of what's the thing, the cats to wrangle, or whatever the heck good expression is for that. So we're trying to wrap that up. We are almost full to the number we want to get, so please sign up for this. We are raising money, kind of like Scott Fishbowl, kind of like Warrior Bowl, some of these other things. We are trying to make this a charity thing where we're donating money to autism awareness, pretty much whatever autism awareness charity you prefer donating there, or really any charity. We're trying to get going on those good vibes and sort of have a good reason to be playing in this league. You are going to be pitted against some of the best in the IDP space, but don't let that scare you. We're obviously here to help out for whatever you need. So again, next couple of weeks, head on over to idpguys.org/2023 IDP Invitational. We're for sure going to put the link to that in the description below. Please sign up. It's a lot of heckin' fun. It's a great little community, and we'd love to have you here.
Yeah, that's going to be a similar roster setup to what we were just showing you. Super Flex. Now, this is actually hosted on my fantasy league, aka MFL, where it will be defensive tackle and cornerback broken out, in addition to defensive end, linebackers, and safeties as well. So just be aware, it's a little more detailed than being in the sleeper leagues, but it is a lot of fun. You what was it last year? An awesome trophy, I believe, and a ring from Trophy
Yeah,
Smack.
God, Trophy
Yeah.
Smack. There's some real prizes you can win. Again, it's free to sign up. We do highly recommend you donate to some charity. But yeah, free to sign up, and you can win some really cool stuff. A trophy, a
Yeah.
ring, free
Bragging
memberships
right.
to IDP guys. The bragging right saying you beat us. Like, that's pretty cool. That's priceless. I'd almost rather have that.
Yeah, this was absolutely inspired by Scott Fishbowl. So one of our core staff members here had a connection to the autism and autism charity. I believe Autism Speaks was the original one. So while we always like to promote that message, that being the kind of founding charity, we encourage people to donate to any charity that is close and personal to them. This is just a specific one that was close and personal to one of our members that helped start this. So we, of course, would love to see donations to autism awareness. I know I'll be doing the Eagles Autism Foundation. They have a great foundation there. But any charity that you have maybe a close personal connection to, animals, other ailments, things like that, we just encourage everyone to, similar to Scott Fish, just get out there and sponsor your team through your charity by giving a few bucks there. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun though. So all right, let me get out of here. Okay, I think that does it for league talk, right? We are now going to take some mailbag questions. So we've been having some people comment on our YouTube page and as well as our Facebook group. So there is an IDP Guys Facebook group if that's more your speed versus like Twitter or YouTube here. So we're gonna hopefully help answer some questions. And one is sort of a very like league specific question, but there's also going to be some that are hopefully some more generic like formatting league setup questions. So we hope that it helps kind of everyone involved. So
I have the first one, which is definitely the most important, Steve. It was brought up that we asked a couple of weeks ago for people to guess how many total cats we had in our house at that given moment.
I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, and it was brought up the question of, well, how many? How many were the number of cats? And we do owe someone some free subscriptions. So yeah, how many cats? How many cats?
It was, the total number is going to shock you guys. It was 18 between the two of us. So I have 10. We have what we call the geriatric unit. We have 5 cats, all pretty much rescues or like we took someone who couldn't keep their cat. So they're older, like adult cats. One of them was a pregnant mom cat that was found on the streets of Reading, Pennsylvania. Someone contacted my wife. All the shelters were full. Nobody could help us. So we took in this pregnant mom. Of course, she had her kittens, at our house, and we kept them and raised them with the mom. Of course, we got attached. We only ended up giving one away. She had a litter of 7. One unfortunately passed like the next day, and then we gave one away. So we have 5 kittens and 5 geriatric unit at our place. What's your 8 there, Matt?
Yeah, so we have 4 permanent cats and 4 foster kittens right now. So we fluctuate between the 4 and more at any given time. So yeah, the answer is 18. It looks like at DJ6922 got the closest, guessing 10.
Great.
So hey,
nice.
if you're listening to this, reach out. I think we owe you a free rookie something or other, which we can go back and remember what we're giving you. But you won. Congratulations.
We were going to do an IDP draft kit that's coming out very shortly.
There you go. That's the one.
Yeah, we'll reach out. We'll reply to his comment there. And as a reminder, get all your information. But that's a great guess. I'm glad you weren't scared to go high, because I think a lot of people were like, 4, 6, like, no, double digits, guys.
All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the fantasy football questions.
That's awesome. So this is a pretty unique league here. He is in a redraft IDP Superflex league with kick and punt return yards, zero point 0.2 points per yard. 14 team on ESPN, 30 roster spots, 10 IDPs, 10 offense, 10 bench. Um, the IDP starters are 3 linebacker, 3 defensive line, 3 defensive back, and 1 flex. The offense is 1 QB, 1 super flex, 1 regular flex, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, boo, and 1 team defense, boo. He and another guy are not the best at IDP, so they are looking for some help, wondering if we think going crazy for defensive players early with these scoring settings is worth it. Now, the scoring settings are, well, first, I want to just address based on that roster setup. Even without knowing any scoring at all, 10 offense, 10 defense with 10 bench, that's a very light bench. So, first of all, I'm going to stick to our normal advice. Get your offense early, especially in the super flex. So, I don't even care what the scoring is. But that's going to be my initial piece of advice. So again, that's a small, and especially with your bench, do not carry more than maybe like 1, maybe 2 IDP bench players. You're going to want the offensive depth at running back, wide receiver, at least a third quarterback in there. Probably don't need a backup tight end. I would probably punt that, especially if you grab a good one early. And you can streamline your defense too. So that's my initial piece of advice. Do you have any initial thoughts? Do you agree, disagree, both of you guys?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially that it's super flex. It's 14-man league, which means we don't know the scoring, right? Assuming QBs are still the most valuable spot there uh, amongst all these positions, right? 2 starting QBs, 14 teams per league. That's 28 QBs. That's a lot of QBs. I don't know who the bottom 4 are in the league, but I know I would not want to be relying on any of those people. So tearing that stuff out right off the bat would be my advice, mostly due to this how many teams are freaking in this league. But yeah, exactly to your point. I know you're going to be tempted to go some of those studs at IDP, and now that we are showing the scoring here, I can totally justify waiting potentially on maybe a tight end or one of my offensive flex spots and going after some of those studs, especially if you're this individual who apparently struggles with the IDP names that are maybe not the top of the list, which the fact that you're commenting on our video, you're doing the right thing. We're going to help you figure it out. Get in the Discord. We'll help you. But yeah, offensive, especially in 14-team leagues, just offensive. It gets so thin so fast on offense, and there's so many great finds on defense that we can help get you there. So yeah, figure out offense. Pepper in some of those defensive people. That makes you like your team more. But yeah, what Steve was saying is right where I'm at. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you guys aren't wrong. With only having a 10-player bench, roster construction is really important. So definitely, you don't want to miss out on those offensive pieces. Getting yourself some studs there, and if you can sprinkle in a stud D lineman, a stud linebacker, great. But don't go out of your way to grab one. A lot of these guys are going to be available on the waiver wire. I mean, Frankie Louvu last year was a waiver wire guy, and he won people championships. Every year, you find these defensive studs. And you're already here with us. You're watching the videos. You're asking questions. You're going to get some of these players before other people do. Don't stress about defense. If somebody falls, absolutely jump on them. But don't walk in saying, I'm going to grab Devin White in the 3rd round. It's going to hurt your team more than you realize.
And that's what I was just going to say. So he breaks out some kind of strategy options that he wants to do, and they're listed by position here. Right away, I'm going to say, get that out of your brain. Don't think like that. Outside of maybe the only thing I might commit myself to is going quarterback in the first 2 rounds personally. Other than that, throw this kind of thought process out of the window. You kind of got to let the draft happen. You need to have a set of rankings with you. Might I suggest ours? But regardless, I would have something with you that you can cross off and kind of follow, and you kind of have to look at the bigger picture. So by, like I said, there's 4 strategies laid out here. I kind of don't even want to entertain those because your draft is not going to go the way you think it's going to, even within the first probably 2 rounds. So, he's got quarterback, wide receiver, a bunch of linebackers, running back. While I do love punting on running back, I will say that's probably a good strategy. Locking in to committing to take these guys specifically in rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't, that's a really good way to lose the league at the draft. What do they say? You can't win your league at the draft, but you sure can lose it. This is a great way to do that by sort of going in and saying, no matter what, I'm taking a wide receiver in the 5th round. You can't do that. I just can't hammer that point home enough. I know it's nice to have some sort of going in with a strategy, and maybe you can keep that as a more of a ideal state, but not a realistic state, because you're going to have to change on the fly. So I love the effort and thought process that went into that. He's got 4 options listed here. None of them being quarterback, however, which is going to be my personal recommendation. Let's touch on the scoring then quickly. So it's 5 points for a sack, which is decent, 2 for a tackle, 1 for an assisted tackle, 6 for a forced fumble. I like that. 3.5 for a fumble recovery, 1.5 for a pass defended. So of course we're going to say punt DBs. Tackles for a loss at 1.5, 6 for an interception, and 7 for a touchdown return. So a decent scoring. Sacks end up netting you 5, 6, 7, 8.5 points. Not bad. The other thing you're going to want to do here, his name is in here. I want to address him by his name, Zion. Maybe that's just a screen name, but Zion, you're going to want to go and review last year's finishes. I always recommend people doing that, even just whether you're looking at your scoring or not. You want to go back and see where guys finished. I personally like to do points per game, but total year-end finishes is still a good enough way to kind of review it. Of course, your quarterbacks are going to probably be up there, but if your defense, if you've got 10 IDPs in the top 50, that's kind of telling you your answer, right? Like, you don't really need to focus on IDPs. So kind of try to figure that percentage out. How many IDPs finished within the top 50? If it's, 5 to 10, we're punting. Okay. Don't worry about the studs. Punt, use our resources, our articles will get you through the season. If it's, 15 to 25%, yeah, I might want to grab 1 or 2 within the first 6, 7, 8 rounds, some top names. And of course, if it's more than that, then yeah, pay a little closer attention. But with the scoring, I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle there, like 15 to 25% in the top finishes. So
Yeah, and
again,
I'll go a step
yeah, go ahead.
further with that, Steve. It's not
Mhm.
just like how many are in the top 50. Look at relative in the position group, like the top
Right.
5 linebackers compared to like the next 5. Like, where are those drops,
Mhm.
right? So I know
Yeah.
in one of those options you mentioned that the top linebackers were scoring as much as wide receiver twos. I mean, obviously that's
Mhm.
great. Those are a lot of points. But where are the next linebackers? Because you can wait a little longer to get that next sort of tier down in linebackers while you're getting nice depth on offense and not getting a huge drop off in points. So at least the way I think about it,
Totally.
it's all sort of relative in those sort of tiers. Based on this scoring system, like I can totally see a world where maybe you do draft a Roquan Smith or potentially a Micah Parsons, which we talked about in another episode, or a Myles Garrett, like a cornerstone. Like, that's my defensive dude that you draft sort of there in the first 6 or 7 rounds or whatever. So you have, someone that is, a fun, great name to have. But then from there, it's all about the values. Cause I can assure you one of those options you had taking your second running back all the way in, it was like the 7th, 8th, 9th round, which I can assure you we can find a linebacker in that round that will be better comparatively with other linebackers than the running back you would end up with in that round.
Mhm.
Because
Absolutely.
you're going to end up getting someone that you've never really heard of that you're going to end up having to start versus there'll be people on the waiver wires or people that we can help you find at that linebacker spot that's going to produce just as well. So That's my only advice, echoing like what you said, Steve. Don't go with the whole plan, other than I would figure out QB within your first 3 rounds, depending on where you're drafting, and then
Yeah.
sort of go from there.
Yeah. If anything, if you wanted to lock in positions, I know what I would do, similar to the draft that we just showed. I would be 2 QBs and 3 wide receivers in the first 5 rounds, and then worry about everything else later. Let the draft come to you. So, which none of those were listed here, unfortunately. And I'm not going to say in what rounds, but I will just say within your first 5 rounds, I want 2 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers, and then start worrying about possibly IDPs, possibly running backs. Who, again, you're really going to have to come together on a set of rankings and just start crossing off, and then look at who's available and make decisions on how you draft. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say there. It's just kind of understand where, like Steve was saying, look at your points, understand where the drop offs are for your offensive guys and where your tiers end. Because if you've got, 2 wide receivers at the bottom of your tier and you still need a wide receiver 3, and you've got 6 or 7 defensive linemen that are in that same tier, you can probably wait on that defensive lineman and grab yourself a wide receiver.
Oh, and we see there he's drafting 3rd. So yeah, you're going to get a stud quarterback, and there's going to be just an absolute run of quarterbacks, would be my assumption. If you don't take a quarterback with your 2nd or 3rd pick, they're gone. It's gone. You're going to be starting. I mean, obviously it's nice to have one of those top 3 QBs, but then you're going to end up starting. I don't even know who's going that late. Like Sam Howell.
In that range,
like
you might be.
I don't know.
Probably get a Stafford there, maybe a Goff if you're really lucky.
Oh, I'm saying if you wait, if he waits until the 4th round, it's going to be that.
Oh yeah.
So Zion, reach out. We're here to help. Comment on these videos. Become a subscriber. Get in our Discord. We're always available to help out with any of your questions. Pretty much any time of day. We got people all over the globe. If you want some real-time advice instead of us just talking at hypotheticals, get in there. We're here to help.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. The Discord is huge for this kind of stuff. We've literally been doing it, right? Guys are telling us, hey, I'm on the clock. It's usually in a slow draft. I don't know if yours is going to be a slow draft or not. So if it's not, it might be a little difficult, but we can talk you through these picks. But yes, okay, I see that now that he's in the 3, and the 2 guys in front of him don't want to draft QBs for some reason. Well, that's just, yes, you're taking Mahomes. If he falls to you at 3, you're taking Mahomes. And then, yes, I probably would go wide receiver, grab my other quarterback, and then start thinking about the IDPs. I'm kind of surprised by this, looking at the scoring, where he said the top 5 linebackers of last year mirror that of the top 4 wide receivers. That surprises me a little bit, just eyeballing that scoring, but I don't know, maybe. Even with that being the case, I think in round 6 or so, you should still have good enough players available. Bobby Wagner for a redraft league is going to be a smash, and people are going to potentially fade him because of his age and everything. So if Bobby Wagner's hanging around in like round 7 or 8, that's a smash pick for me. And if that was your linebacker 1, I'd be totally happy with that. So yeah. So now understanding that you're from the 3 spot and you're pretty much guaranteed a top quarterback, I get why you put together some of these strategies. But yeah, I would still probably want offense in the first 5 rounds and then figure it out from there. So hopefully that helped. Going to jump to another question from our Facebook group. Now, this one, sorry about the the dark to light mode change there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to try. This was a lot, so I'm going to try to read through and grab the most pertinent questions. He's asking about settings. So this is the more generic settings question. He wants feedback on a new dynasty startup. IDPs, he already boosted them from 5 to 8. I would say great job on that. Very
Great
smart.
job.
Everyone should boost your IDPs up. Close to IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, which is very good. That promotes defensive linemen scoring a lot, defensive back scoring a lot. So that's good. Most people seem to know the top 10 defensive names. So you've got 8 IDP players, but if people only know the top 10, you're going to have a lot of depth available to you there. Let them grab those top 10 and you scoop up the Quay Walkers of the world, probably the Bobby Wagners of the world. So then beyond that, it gets really fuzzy. It seemed to feel that the second tier of IDP scores tend to come from top defensive-minded coach teams. When one of those coaches moves around the league, his players seem to jump in stats. Is this idea correct? So he's talking about defensive coordinators or coaches who are defensive-minded. When they get into new positions, he's asking, does that seem to make sense that new players can break out? Basically, schemes and coaching, does that affect IDPs? So I'll give a quick answer to that. Absolutely, yes. One of my favorites for this year is, I don't recall his name, but the new defensive coordinator in Atlanta came from New Orleans, brought Caden Ellis with him. Our guy, Mike Sicoli, loves talking about this. And it's something I didn't realize until he reminded me of it. And stuff like that is a great indicator. And Caden Ellis is a guy I'm trying to grab everywhere, and you can get him basically for free, rounds like 20 plus in your draft. So how do you guys react with coaching changes, defensive coordinator changes, and then guys that they either bring with them or guys that are in place who might be elevated by their styles?
So I think it is important to kind of watch where the coaching changes are taking place and what schemes they're running and all that. But at the same time, ultimately it comes down to the players that are on the field. And, you can have really great players that aren't getting the snaps because of the coach likes somebody else better.
Right.
But then you get, situations like Houston last couple of years ago where you had linebackers that were complete trash on a defensive team that wasn't super defensive minded, that were just blowing points out of your mind. So it's valuable to use as a guide, but I would in no way use it as a be all end all for trying to determine which players you're going to target. Caden Ellis is an awesome example because you saw him do it already in that scheme. But the other pieces they're in a new scheme now. So it's hard to say that what you saw last year from guys like Troy Anderson is going to be the same this year in a new scheme, even though you've got that defensive-minded coordinator there.
True.
Yeah, I'll say where it matters is, how the defensive coaches use their players, right? So I know there are a few teams out there, right, where they rotate their defensive line a Mattingly amount, right? So like no one gets the snap percentages that they need to actually score a whole bunch, versus other defensive coordinators will just hammer them, right? So for example, Jalen Phillips comes to mind. There's a new defensive coordinator there in Miami who is notorious for not or for rotating to keep people fresh, which is both good and bad, right? So when Jalen Phillips, a big sleeper that we all seemingly love for this year, has fewer snaps to work with potentially, then he's fewer opportunities to score a bunch of points, but he's gonna be fresher, so maybe he'll be better. But also the same defensive coordinator, I'm blanking on the name, also usually has their guy. Is it Vic Fangio?
Yeah, Fangio's there.
When he was there in Denver, he has his guy, and his guy plays a whole bunch, right? So Von Miller, not a great comparison because one of the all-time greats there, but all this to be said, it's hard to get too in the weeds with defensive coaches and try to figure out what they do, other than I'm a New England fan. Like, good luck figuring out what the Patriots do any given week, because it's all the team they're playing against based. And Will, to your point, I often look at what teams have bad offenses, so there's a bunch of snaps for defense for the second tier IDP scores. So it's about getting the most out of players, and there's probably something there with the actual defensive-minded coach teams, but really, I don't think it's a big enough thing to specifically just go after certain people, because on those better defensive teams, there's often a lot of mouths to feed. Like the Eagles did very well with all of their defensive linemen last year. They scored a whole bunch, but I think that's more of the anomaly than something you can necessarily expect for all of those defensive-minded teams.
And when the teams lose coordinators, so it's a somewhat important piece of the puzzle. It's not. It's definitely a factor to consider. I think it can help unearth sleepers like a Caden Ellis, who was brought by the staff over from the team. In a Vic Fangio, Jalen Phillips, we're hoping that, yes, it might be lesser snaps, but we're hoping he's more efficient and that Fangio will put him in a better position. I think it was the IDP show and the PFF guys uncovered how like whoever was there last year was like dropping Phillips into coverage, and he's a pass rusher. Like, what are you doing? So we're hoping that Vic Fangio is not that stupid and will, although Phillips might play less snaps slightly, we're hoping that the efficiency is going to tick way up because Fangio is going to be sending him after the quarterback, not covering running backs or tight ends, which is ridiculous. So those are the types of things you kind of want to look for. Again, it's a piece of the puzzle, definitely not a be all end all. So you're sort of right with that question.
And potentially, I'd be interested. Do we know who wrote this?
I don't know if I snipped the name. I didn't.
Okay.
Snip the name. I believe it was. Yeah. Well,
if you're listening to this, which you should
Somebody
be,
Birch.
I'm gonna link it back to him, so he's gonna check
cool.
it out.
I'd want to know which teams you're talking about with the defensive-minded coaches, because in my brain, just thinking about it now, a defensive-minded coach might mean they have a worse offense, which means there's more opportunities on defense, right? I'm just going through it in my brain. It's like the Patriots, not a good offense. I'm sure the Patriots defensive players, while Mattingly trying to figure out who is going to start, they did well. The Steelers, Tomlin, that's a defensive team, right?
Yeah.
The Steelers had a pretty bad offense, so there's a lot of opportunities for that defense to score points, so on and so forth. So I'd be interested to hear who you're thinking there.
Well, he's sort of asking us about this. So we talked about Caden Ellis. The Texans is a great example how, especially in a murky situation, which it was last year and it still kind of is this year, because we have a whole new regime with guys left over from last year. So usually when that's the case, you just take the cheaper of the bunch. But I really think Christian Harris is going to break out this year under a D'Amico Ryan. So it's not necessarily a D'Amico Ryan's guy, but he's kind of stuck with him. He has decent draft capital, and I think he's going to have a nice little breakout, and their offense is still going to be bad. Denver's a whole new regime. They signed Zach Allen, the defensive lineman, to a relatively large contract. I think that is a guy to keep on your radar, and he could be had incredibly late in drafts. So there's just a few of those. We will have articles with full team previews coming out very shortly as well. So I would recommend follow along with the articles, and we're going to break down and we're going to identify a lot more of those guys. But those are just a few names to throw at you there. Opportunity seems to be a big factor, just like running backs. Exactly, follow the snaps. We'll be tracking that for you all season long as well.
A la the Texans of last year, or I'm looking at you, the Titans of this year. Who else is going to be bad?
Aziz and Hooker are my guys on the Titans.
Earnestly, the Rams, maybe.
Ernest Jones.
You look at that defense, like you're not going to recognize near anyone on that team, but they're going to be playing a lot of defense over there. So look for that.
These are all guys we've definitely identified, probably in a lot of articles already, but those are some more names to throw at you. But right, you got to follow the snaps. The more stats, the higher percentage of snaps are on the field, the more stats typically he's asking as a question. Yes and no. We've seen a lot of times those LB2s who play 90 to 95% of the snaps next to like a stud. don't always give you the stats that you would expect out of that high of a snap percentage. Thinking Nicholas Morrow playing next to Roquan Smith for half the year last year, he was still playing a crap ton of snaps and wasn't giving you much IDP wise, especially outside of just tackle. So that is a sort of yes question, but not all the time.
It's dependent on the position too. I sort of alluded to it. Like there's certain percentages you like to have hit for opportunities. Like defensive linemen, I mean, they're big boys. So like typically like 70% is pretty good for them to be out there. Linebackers, you want at least 80%, especially in the deeper leagues. And defensive backs, you want pretty near 100%. And for example, it's not just the percentage; it's where they're used. So my big example, Trevin Moehrig, if you remember him over there on the Raiders, their safety position, he played practically 100% of defensive snaps, which if you're just looking at that, you'd say, oh, he must be producing from a fantasy perspective. He had 55 combined tackles, and that was it. No splash plays. That was it.
He's
it's
playing
not
center field.
Exactly. So it's important to know, you need players that are playing, obviously, but on spots or in spots on that defense where they will actually produce.
And then he wants us to argue a little bit. So I'm trying to think of guys that I'm higher on. Wait, let me go back to your draft, Matt. I'm gonna.
Oh, we doing
critique.
This? We doing this?
Yeah, I'm gonna critique some things here, and you can do it on me too. So let's see. It's tough to find something I hate here. Okay, I hate Matt Judon in the 7th round when I got Josh Uche in the 27th round. Tell me why Matt Judon in the 7th was a better pick than Uche in the 27th.
If you look at Uche's stats when he got his sacks, a couple of big games, like 3 sack games. Unreal. Yeah. And I love Uche. I've been waiting for him to break out. He just doesn't get the snaps to do it. Like he just never does. Like he's the kind of player in something like this that is not best ball. You're never going to know, Steve, when to play him. You're not going to know. Like you're going to have him on the bench and he's going to go up or he's going to like be on your bench or starting and do absolutely nothing. Judon's more consistent. He more consistently does stuff. We get a lot of points here for tackles behind the line, I believe. Tackles for a loss. So give me that guy who's done it for forever now. Like I was suspect for how good he'd be on the Patriots. He's done it for 2 years in a row. I'm no longer a doubter. Granted, I don't think Uche is going to be someone that you're starting based off of your team. So absolute great value. But for me in that spot, I needed someone that was actually going to play.
Oh yeah, well Matt Judon's old, so take that.
He sure is. I want to fight you. Okay, well, you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I still want to pile on Judon. I think that's a terrible pick. It's great for like the first 4 weeks of the season, and then because of his advanced age, he's going to wear down and he's going to be tired.
He does disappear at the end of seasons. You have to admit that. So
I'm looking up the stats here. He didn't last year. It happened. It happened in 2021. He had 15 and a half sacks last year. Oh my god, incredible!
I mean, you've got a slam dunk on me, loading up on the Jaguars. I've got Lawrence, Ridley, Kirk, Evan Ingram. Like, what the hell?
I don't think
somebody trashed their own team.
I don't think we
self-deprecating.
Yeah, we don't check his box if you just fight yourself. Let's see. I don't. Okay, I think I am in the minority here, but I'm fine with that. I don't love Cooper Kupp.
Okay,
I don't love Cooper Kupp as someone who we're banking on being super great. There's a lot of questions there on that offense. Like I understand the positive affirmations. Like even if Stafford's not healthy, and that offense, he's one of a few people that are almost guaranteed 10 plus targets a game. right?
Right.
So I kind of get it, but I think like I would rather have, which again, I know I'm in the minority, like Hill, AJ Brown, CD Lamb
Yeah,
over
that's
him.
fair.
So so yeah, that's my gripe. People keep talking like Cooper Cup should be going 101 and it's like, get out of here. Get out of
It's
here.
it's very scary, trust me. Anybody who drafts Cooper Cup pretty much anywhere is going to be nervous all year long. I mean, it's gonna one bad cut, like if Stafford does go down again and he's got Stetson Bennett throwing to him, like good God. So yes, it is very scary to be a Cooper Cup manager this year for sure. So
Well, and he can get a million
that's
catches and all that jazz, but like in order to hit as the wide receiver 3, like he needs to like fall into the end zone
yeah,
at some point, and I just don't trust that
yeah,
Rams offense to actually get there. So
yeah. All right. You could have been a little nicer about it, Zach.
trash team by a trash drafter. Unbelievable.
There we go. Let's go. All right. I think that's a good spot to end things. We really appreciate everyone listening. I'll let you guys give your sign offs for tonight.
All right. I am at FF Skinny Chef. Follow me on Twitter if you guys want to try and hop into some of those free redraft leagues that we're doing. Don't forget, if you win, you can end up with a free subscription to the IDP, guys. There's very few things out there better than free, and nothing better than a free subscription to us.
Hell yeah.
Bada boom. I'm Matt Record at mrecord21, pretty much everywhere you can find me. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you're still here, heckin' do it. Give us a comment on everything that you sort of heard us listen to, and sign up for the 2023 IDP Invitational. What's stopping you? It's free. We just asking for a small donation to a charity of your choice. It can be anything you want it to be. It's a heckin' great time, a great introduction to IDP leagues because you go really in the trenches. Please sign up for that, and keep listening to us every week.
All right. And of course, I'm at Dynasty Santa on Twitter. DM's open. Happy to help people with questions, but definitely recommend try to become a subscriber. Hop in our Discord. You get direct, quick access to everyone there. I'm going to plug our guy, Big Mike Sicoli's newsletter. It's a great newsletter, touches on all things around the league. So IDP, offense, fantasy football, NFL news, highlights articles, highlights videos, really great newsletter. My favorite email that I get every week for sure. And yeah, all things can be found on idpguys.org. We're running these great leagues. So check it out, give us feedback, and thank you so much for listening. And we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Adios.